Hello and welcome to my benchmark process improvement project, phases 2 and 3. My name is Steve Watts. I'm with Grand Canyon University. This is Class BUS 665 Operational Management as part of my MBA with emphasis in project management. Today what we're going to be looking at is my IT department's ticketing system. It is a system that we use to control the workflow of work orders submitted by our business customers. We have identified that there are problems with the process. We have found that business partners do have a tendency to go directly to team members and request work. This means that work orders that they should be working on get delayed, and we have no record of the work. We also have found that work items or work orders can be entered into the system through one of 4 web pages. This is confusing to the business partners, and we often have work orders submitted in an incorrect manner, which causes confusion. There are also multiple paths that the work order can follow. This is internally to the IT department is confusing, and sometimes work orders do get forgotten about. So customers have no visibility as to the progress of a work order, and they also do not know when a work order will be completed. This current system has no way of prioritizing a work order, and because of that, we do not always deliver on time. And as I said earlier, if we do not meet our requirements, which does happen on occasions, it means that there will be rework, and this causes delay to other work orders. We've identified 6 groups of stakeholders who have a vested interest in the successful completion of a new ticketing system and the completion of work orders in a timely manner. First of all, we have the executive leadership. Obviously, they need the IT department to be working on work orders and completing them on time and meeting the requirements. And they can also influence the priority of a work order. IT leadership is responsible for managing IT resources working on work orders, and they also have a way that they can affect the priority of a work order. The IT employees, this is the group that is actually doing the work. It is business analysts, developers, and QA testers. And we do have service delivery managers who do help with the flow of work. The non-IT leadership, this group of managers and directors, they actually submit work orders for IT services so that their teams can perform their duties. Non-IT employees, they actually get to sort of use the services created by IT. Third-party vendors also have a slight or small involvement in the process. We have vendors that the company interfaces with. We provide them with information, and they provide us with information, and it's how we interact. And then we have a small number of vendors that actually provide applications for our company to use. Initially, the 2B process consists of 8 stages. There'll be an intake process. This is going to be through email. This is where the business customers will send an email to the ticketing system and request a work order. The next stage will be a triage stage. IT employees and leadership will review work items to ensure that the work is applicable and make sure that it's meeting sort of company needs. If the ticket gets through triage, then it'll go into a backlog where this will be items that will be worked on in the future. The future could be sort of the next hour. It could be that the ticket or the work order will not be worked on for the next week or 2 weeks or even a month. The development stage is where the actual IT team gets to work on the work order. Now, this is where BAs will sort of make sure we've collected all the requirements. The development team will develop reports and sort of applications. The QA team will actually sort of ensure that we meet requirements. It should be pointed out that work orders can either be a sort of a break fix item, in which case the item could be sort of stopping something in production, in which case there will be a fairly quick turnaround, or it could be sort of new work. Once work is completed by the IT team, we'll go into a user acceptance phase. This is something that's been missing in the past, but this is where we'll expect the users to test the work that's been produced to ensure that it meets their requirements. On completion of user acceptance, we'll then go into change approval. This is where leadership will approve the work to be deployed into the production environment. The deployment stage is where the IT team will actually deploy into the production environment. This will be followed by a warranty stage certainly for new work, where any changes to the work can be made without making changes to or requiring a new work order. The existing work order will be used. As we sort of develop this new system, we will also be collecting or making sure that we collect sort of the following data elements. For instance, what the date that the work item is entered into the system, the date that the work item triage is completed. Hopefully, this will be sort of within 24 hours. Then we need to know the date that work is started. Also, when work is completed, we need to know when user acceptance is completed and when the change approval is agreed. The date that the work item is deployed into production is another useful item. So that will be able to sort of tell us how long it takes from a ticket to be created to actually getting deployed, since we'll have tickets for reports, break fixes, and new development. This will help us to improve our processes. It's important that we understand who the individuals are assigned to the work order. We need to make sure that a work order is actually assigned to an individual who has the correct skill set. The type of work order, as I mentioned earlier, we have reports, we have break fixes, we have new development. It could also be a help desk ticket as well. Perhaps somebody needs to sort of reset their password and need help with that, or they need help accessing a printer. It's important that we understand who our customers are and what departments they are. The customer employees do change, so if we understand who the department is, we can then go to the department leadership and make sure that the work order is still applicable, and we can identify who in their department can help us out with user acceptance testing. We need to understand work order priority. So certain sort of tickets will have a higher priority than others. This will be done on what the ROI for a work order is, as what is the needs of the business. Once we have our new process in place, we need to understand what our success criteria are. So we need to make sure that the customers have visibility as to where work items are within the development process. IT employees need to know what they should be working on now in the future. IT leadership need to know what work items are late. Work order items need to be triaged. No work order item should sort of fall through the cracks. Well, everything is triaged, then we can make sure that we understand what priorities are, and sort of reports can sort of help us identify those work order items. Work orders also need to be prioritized as well, and work orders should also be assigned by skill set. if it's a report, then a developer sort of could do that, but they're far better at sort of developing code. A report writer shouldn't be sort of developing code. So we have a timeline for working through this. We've got a sort of high-level activity, so it's going to start off with a kick-off meeting with leadership, IT executive and non-IT and IT employees, so we understand what the purpose of the project is going to be and how this new process is intended to work. We'll then make sure that we capture the initial requirements, and that will be done by IT leadership and IT employees. And we will have to work with employees within the organisation as well. We'll then install our new ticketing system. That's expected to take 5 days. Will be done by IT employees, and then we'll configure the system as well. At this point, we're estimating 5 days. Once we understand the requirements, checklists for work orders can be sort of created depending on the type of work order. We'll also sort of create some reports as well, which will help us to understand what work orders are in the system and sort of what work orders are late. We'll then go into a testing phase. We'll involve the IT employees, IT leadership and non-IT leadership with that. We'll put sort of test tickets, test work orders in and sort of see how it flows through, and to make sure that the reports and checklists are applicable. While this is going on, we'll create sort of training materials. Obviously, that once we understand what our new workflow is completely, that will be allow us to finish the training materials. Excuse me. Once we've got training materials, we'll then train the employees, IT, and then other employees. With training complete, we'll then sort of move into deploying the ticketing system. And then once that's been in place for probably about 5 days, we'll have a project closeout meeting where we can sort of do a lessons learned. So throughout this process of doing the process improvement, we'll be sort of communicating as to what's going on. It will start off with our project kickoff meeting. We'll have a meeting to review our to-be process so that sort of changes can be made. As we're developing the actual process, we'll have review meetings, and we'll report back to leadership as to sort of what has been done and what is planning to be done and what roadblocks we're experiencing. We'll create training materials. That is important for the initial deployment, but also sort of post-deployment as new employees join the company. We need to train them on how to use this ticketing system. There'll then be sort of IT training sessions and employee training sessions. This ideally would be sort of face-to-face, but we could use Zoom, for instance, to do these remotely. And finally, we'll have a project closeout meeting where we'll sort of try and understand what went right, what went wrong, and what we should continue doing with projects in the future. Thank you very much for your time in listening to this presentation, and we will sort of move forward with our process improvement for our ticketing system. Thank you very much for your time.